Hi, John Murphy of FPF Training with this next presentation on use of force, the post-incident procedures, actions and procedures. You have just stepped through the looking glass into the legal/justice system. And if you don't have a plan for that at the outset, well, you're setting yourself up to lose that second fight. You've already had the first fight for your life. Now you have to fight for the rest of your life against what can be an increasingly hostile legal system. So despite your very best efforts of awareness, avoidance, deselection, de-escalation, departure, all these things failed, and you've used force. Now this force can range from a punch, a pepper spray, and draw to the right with a verbal command, or the actual application of lethal force. Each circumstance I just detailed will require an input into the system. And that's the 911 system. You're inviting the man into your life. So it is a government system, and generally locally funded, locally provisioned, of various effectiveness. Depends upon the telecommunications company, what the government requirements are. It's just, there's a lot to it. It is a system of systems, leavened with people. And people come in all shapes, sizes, and capabilities. So, like I mentioned, different circumstances require a different input into the system. Otherwise, if you get garbage in, you'll get garbage out. Dispatchers, this is your system interface. 911, what do you require? Every jurisdiction has the way they answer the phone differently. Do you require police, fire, or medical? 911, what is your emergency? 911, what is your location? 911, hold please. And in many jurisdictions, that is now the response. If you're very rural or you're very urban and the system's overloaded, hold please. And what are the odds of that call dropping while you're on hold?
Pretty high if you're on a cell tower.
Or the system just boots you out after a period of time. We're hitting it's interesting times, kind of an overload thing going on. Now that 911 operator, that call rather, is absolutely evidence that will be used to either judge you worthy of what you did or judge you worthy of further scrutiny by the legal system. That operator, they have come in a spectrum of competence. And I've listened to audio of a 911 operator in Los Angeles. It was a rolling pursuit, multiple shots fired, multiple officers injured, multiple units converging onto this pursuit. And this operator, she kept heads up on everything. There are officers down at this location. Other officers responding, be aware that Sepulveda and 5th, other units are, watch out for the cross-track. It was just an incredible performance. Others, not so much. Not so much. Work environments can vary. It looks like she's got a pretty nice place to work there. Other small rural areas might have the bag of Fritos and the Coke and maybe the rotary phone. I don't know, however far out in the woods you are. 911 operators, dispatchers, they are interrogators. Some time ago, I was rear-ended in Colorado Springs, and I gave what I thought was a pretty good report. Oh no, she had all kinds of questions for me that I had not thought of. There's actually a computer program. They'll type in car accident, tippity, 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 tap, tap, tap. And all these questions pop up. Of course, some of them have been doing it for so long, they don't need the program. And there it is, tippity, tippity, tap, tap, tap. And as you're giving information, she or he is banging it into the system to pump out to the officers for dispatch. Now, they may hang up, or thank you, we have all you need for a low priority call, or they'll stay on the line. which can be consequential for us. More of that later. So, say in this situation, we've used liberal dose of vitamin P to someone's face, a less lethal use of force. Our procedure after that event, depart the scene. This person is eventually going to recover from that pepper spraying. You don't want to be there when they do. Now, once you've departed the scene, it is very important, however, that you call 911, or is it? Schools of thought. Schools of thought. Yeah, he's like, oh yeah. School of thought number one is that your average criminal guy is not going to call the cops. Not going to do it. That's school of thought number one. School of thought number two, I can go back to a scenario I read about years ago on a forum. A young man was going to law school in Philadelphia. And he was working at an illegal aid center, walked down the steps, turned the corner, and somebody threatened him with a hacksaw blade, street guy. He's like, okay, got it. It was right after concealed carry had been passed in Pennsylvania. So our law school student said, you know what, my SIG trumps your hacksaw blade. And the guy ran off. Depending upon whose statistics you believe, that happens anywhere between 400,000 and 3 million times a year in this country. And our guy is walking down the street thinking, yet another successful defensive gun use not involving a shot, when suddenly, woo, bam, Philadelphia's finest arrive, and they arrest him. They confiscate his pistol and his concealed carry permit. They go to his apartment and get all of his guns. They go downtown. So what happened? Well, this happened and that happened. Well, we don't care. We're going to charge you anyway. And oh, by the way, where's your concealed carry permit? Well, you guys have it. We don't have it. You guys check it. Oh, carrying without a permit. Yes. Yes, they did. Now, even a law school student knows that any attorney that represents himself has a fool for a client. So we had to hire a criminal defense attorney. And over the course of a year, there were multiple depositions. And actually, the street guy never showed up. So eventually, it became case dismissed. Okay, great. I want my guns back. We don't have your guns. No, I have a receipt. We don't have your guns. So he had to keep that lawyer on retainer to sue the city of Philadelphia for the loss of his firearms. But wait, there's more. I subsequently reached out to this guy to get the rest of the story, and here's what I learned. The whole thing was so stressful that it was a significant contributing factor to his divorce. Think about that. For that whole year, he had the sword of the state over his head. Assault with a deadly weapon, brandishing whatever charges. And that is, you're with somebody who may go to prison for 5 years. If I haven't mentioned it yet, I'll say it now. These are highly consequential things that you're doing, decisions you're making. Highly consequential. So we've decided to call 911 in this case. Inform them that you were assaulted or threatened. This man was a very aggressive panhandler. I kept telling him to stop. He kept walking toward me. So I employed the minimum force I had available, pepper spray. Or he threatened me. I'm going to mess you up. Okay, got it. There you go. Give them your location, where you are. I'm currently at the Starbucks at the corner of 5th and Main. This happened on Elm and 9th, and where this event took place. Because why do you have to do that? Because you've left from where it happened. He was wearing blue jeans and a gray sweater and a black hat. Description of the attacker. Then I used the minimum force necessary to ensure my safety. Officer, the sum of my training and experience led me to believe that I was in danger at that moment, so I employed the minimum force necessary to ensure my safety. Now, there are some who will argue that pepper spray is kind of a freebie. I got news. I taught this class in New Hampshire some years ago, and a student from Massachusetts sent me a link to a case where a man used pepper spray recklessly in the Boston area. He might as well have used sulfuric acid on this guy, because the state went after him hammer and sickle. Yes, I use that analogy deliberately. It's just sad what's happened up in the Northeast. But they voted for it. That's what they wanted. That's what they get. Oh, he got off. It was like a $200,000 legal fee that he finally got it all dismissed. I wish to file a report because I want it on record that this happened. Again, that's if you choose to call 911, but whoever calls 911 first is generally viewed as the victim. So, and provide a statement to the responding officer like I detailed. Now, here's what could happen. One, don't be surprised if the system does not care. Yeah, thanks very much. Don't be surprised in some municipalities, Minneapolis would probably be among them right now, if that doesn't even rise to the occasion of an officer showing up to take a report. Tippity, tippity, tap, tap, tap. Thank you very much. Closed and done. Don't be surprised if they attempt to find fault with you and possibly charge you. That's where we are in the movie right now. So, application of lethal force is the highest possible consequence. The government will devote great scrutiny to that situation, that you've applied lethal force, generally the power of the state, to one of your fellow citizens. Now, this also includes a draw to the ready, stop, with a verbal command. What am I threatening right now? I'm threatening to kill somebody. But you never pointed the gun at it. They don't care. There once was a time that was kind of viewed as a freebie. Those days are gone. First, after your incident, you have to ask yourself, is it over? Is this problem solved? Have I gone through these branches and now I have someone's fled, they're gone, or someone is lying there wounded or dead in front of me? Is this over? Take a deep breath at that point. Move to where you can see what you need to see and do what you need to do. I need to see the totality of the scene, ideally from a position of protection or cover. And this comes to us from my friend John Holshin, a profound intellect with deep, deep experience in what it is that we do. Really sharp guy. And what I need to do is ensure that I'm okay. Well, we'll get on that in a second. What about if there's a weapon, a threat weapon? What do I do with it? It's on the ground. Well, do I want to have the perpetrator have access to that thing still? To that weapon? No. If I can kick it away. But what have I just done?
Crime scene.
I modified the scene. So I must be able to articulate, well, yes, I moved that because that is the best common practice that I see law enforcement officers do all the time. We'll get more of that in a moment. What if there are multiple threats? The guy had friends. They left. Can they come back? What if it hasn't happened recently? I can think about the Rittenhouse case, but that was kind of crazy. Multiple perpetrators getting shot. So my concerns after this event is first myself, because no one's getting saved if I bleed out. So I got to check myself. Am I okay? Are the people I'm responsible for okay? And then others, if I choose to expand my circle that far. So to any event, there are eye and ear witnesses. And if you get 10 witnesses, you will have 25 stories. Anyway. And there's also a thing I will characterize as an ear witness. I had a friend that was putting on his pistol, well, the whole story. The day before this event I'm about to detail to you, I shot at a black bear with a rubber slug, and it made a pop noise. Pop. Fast forward a day. We're going out for dinner, and I'm in the living room, and I hear pop. And I thought, well, son of a gun, he just shot a black bear off the back porch with a rubber slug. Then I heard thud. And actually what had happened is my friend had dropped his gun and had discharged and shot himself. He's fine, he's fine. There was some moments of drama. I'll tell the story in a different venue sometime. But, well, so I heard that pop, and I come running around the corner, and he's on all fours in his walk-in closet with a big puddle of blood. And I'm thinking, well, son of a gun, I did not know that a rubber slug would do that because I heard pop. My mind was cued to that pop. And it took a moment or four, frankly, an embarrassingly long time for me to figure out what had transpired. So there's such a thing as an ear witness to an event. And eyewitnesses, well, that can all depend upon what perspective and who was seeing what at one time. Verbalization after the incident. Everyone stand back, he has a weapon. You're establishing yourself as the good guy, and that guy was the threat. He tried to murder me. There's killing, which can be justified homicide, and then there's murder, which is illegal. To him, who else do you have to communicate with? This guy. Do not move or I will shoot you again. You would like to think that you've established credibility with this guy because you've already shot him once. Is everyone else okay? Do you render aid to your assailant? I'm a vote no. I don't know if this guy is alone. I don't know the totality of the situation. I've already had a pretty big day. If I'm bent over working on this guy and then he decides to snatch for my gun, and others may disagree. And and maybe faced the moment, I might throw a tourniquet on if that would work. I don't know. Do not depart that scene of that shooting unless one of two circumstances exist. One, you have to leave for your immediate personal safety. All a dude's friends are showing up and they're very upset. What time is it? It's time to go. Two, you need to seek immediate medical attention. And if you do leave the scene for either reason, you call the cops. This happened at this location. I am now en route to the hospital because. And plus, everybody's wearing their personal tracking device everywhere they go. You're not hiding from anybody anymore anyway. So the 911 call, this is going to go on your permanent record. Remember that threat from back in the days of grade school? It is going to be recorded and part of the evidentiary chain. When they answer the phone, first up, I'm at Armed, Missouri, on Sterling Road in Bland, Missouri. Bam, that way in case the service drops, they know there's at least something going on. Name, I require a police response and ambulance because. And now we're going to go down a decision path here. I was attacked and fired in self-defense. You've just owned it. Totally, completely, you are now asserting your defense. Or two, someone's been shot and then hang up. Both are fraught with perils and positives and negatives associated with them. One, if you stay on the line, you are in a very emotional state. And there's a thing called logorrhea. You might just start talking. You may say things you might regret subsequently. On the other hand, if I'm out here in a rural area and I'm on the line, I can hear the sirens, have them turn right at the corner. You can talk them onto the scene. That recording is evidence. And they generally do a pretty good job of recording that sort of stuff for posterity, though I'm aware of one case in Dallas in the last couple of years, a very high-profile self-defense shooting where the victim was subsequently charged with 2 counts of capital murder. And Texas excels at many things, and one of them is the death penalty. And Dallas PD lost it. They couldn't find it in their records. So that can become a thing too. So once you claim that, yes, I have just fired those shots in self-defense because he was doing X, Y, you have now asserted your defense of the case. Well, there's a whole spectrum of things that can be going on there. What if, heaven forbid, you were wrong? Not that that's going to, I mean, it's all going to come out in court. So I'll discuss that in just a moment. You are very emotionally vulnerable at that moment. So when in doubt, shut up. The common joke is you have the right to remain silent, but not necessarily the ability to do so. I have another video I'll link to in the comments on the post-incident legal environment and all the players that you can encounter. So if you are on the phone and you're giving descriptions to the dispatcher, the 911 operator, and you can say the perpetrator was wearing khaki shorts and a gray sweater and a tan hat. And I'm wearing a green shirt and khaki trousers. And it goes out over the radio. The perpetrator is wearing a green shirt and khaki trousers. Had the cops shot the wrong person upon arrival? Yes, they have, because they're people. And officers are dispatched. They will have information overload and information deficit. And part of that information overload is what they think they know is wrong. Or they're bringing to the situation a preconceived notion. They're people. So we have to prepare for the next fight. When do I call my lawyer? Well, there's a YouTube channel I subscribe to called The Armed Attorneys, and they're self-defense attorneys out of Texas, lovely people. And the woman on that channel has described circumstances where she arrives shortly after the cops because someone calls 911 and they call her. The sooner, the better. That whole, you have the right to a phone call? Yeah, we'll get to that right after we book you. And then by the time they're done booking you, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Who's going to answer the phone then? Also, any call you make from that facility is going to be recorded. So if you have a legal service, it is best that you retain one that has a lawyer that will pick up the phone. That way that conversation will be privileged. Be very mindful when you're talking over that government telephone who actually owns that line. And people have, in fact, indicted themselves by what they said over that phone call. It will all go on your permanent record. And I'll say this, there are now people out for your ass, one way or the other. The police. So here we are, our law enforcement heroes of the day. They are not a monolithic entity. People talk about the police, the cops. Well, particularly in rural areas, they represent the generally good old boys that were raised here. Same with the big cities occasionally, though some of them are, people come there to be cops because they saw. I applied to LAPD because I liked Adam 12. Okay? Boy, did I dodge a bullet there. Long story. Local variations, they are duty bound to enforce the law, and hopefully they can exercise some discretion. And your behavior at that scene can help get that discretion going your way. But the big secret about cops, they're people too, and they're like a box of chocolates. You just don't know who's going to come to your call. And the guy or lady who answers your call could, before that, been on the phone with an estranged spouse having a fight over child visitation rights. Then I got to go, I got to call. And then they take that emotional state that they're charged in onto your scene. Now I have a friend of mine that's a cop, and he practices what he calls box breathing. After stressful calls, he purges all that stuff to move on to the next thing. And you think about that, you're going from crappy situation to shitty situation to crappy situation during an entire shift. And there can be a cumulative effect to that. And cops are people too. I got more of that in the other video I'll link in the comments. So Officer Fengler arrives to your scene. Ideally, I will have formed a welcoming committee to greet them at the door or at the entrance to the venue or to wherever I am. Like, officer, my friend's inside. He's a good guy with the green shirt. Don't shoot him. Is that a guarantee? Perhaps not, but it's the best case scenario. Be an absolute non-threat when they show up. Where should the gun be? Holstered and covered up. Or officer, hands are out, palms are out, fingers flayed. Officer, the gun is in the other room. I am not a threat. And here comes the tricky part. Comply with commands. Now, what if you've got, normally, the first officer on the scene is the one in charge of controlling the scene. But sometimes you'll have a more senior ranking officer show up. Other people will just start to assert themselves, and you can get, turn to the left, back toward me, turn to the right. What do? Pick your favorite cop. Officer, what do you want me to do? And comply. Be prepared to be cuffed. Bam. They're masters of chaos. They're going to get control of that situation. You sit down over there. You stay right there. You come talk to me. Bam, 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 bam. In the video view ahead for this class, I have another incident. It was a shooting in Dallas on a public train. And the Metro PD, Dallas PD arrived, and they came onto the scene, looking around, circumspect. All they knew there had been a shooting, a report of a shooting. And people pointed at the shooter, and they got him cuffed up. One lady went to intercede, but they got control of the scene first thing. Decision point. Do I make a statement? So what happened here? Well, or do I shut up?
Both.
This is a situation that is very, very fraught with nuance. That's over there, nuance topic, which I will discuss in the actual class time. The answer is maybe. Maybe both, maybe not. And that's my take on the post-incident environment, after-action techniques and tactics. Hope to see you all on the range.